Hey everyone, I'm Hiro. Welcome back to the CISA exam prep series. In this video, we are covering section 4, internal controls. Quick question before we dive in. Look at these 4 things on the screen. A firewall, a manager's approval on a payment, separation of duties, a disaster recovery plan. Which of these counts as an internal control? The answer is all of them. And that's exactly what this section is about. Controls are much broader than most people think. What is a control? So, what exactly is an internal control? Here's the definition. A control is any mechanism that management puts in place to keep risk within acceptable limits and achieve business goals. 2 things to note here. First, controls are not just restrictions. They are tools that support organization success. Second, controls are not just IT. Manual processes, like a manager signing off on a transaction, and organizational structures, like separating who approves payments from who processes them. These all count as controls, and the auditor's role to evaluate whether controls are working, not to design them, just to assess them. 3 types of controls by timing. Now, let's break controls down by timing. There are 3 types. First, preventive controls. These stop problems before they happen. Classic examples include access control and encryption. Second, detective controls. These find problems after they occur. Log monitoring and audits are typical examples. Third, corrective controls. These fix the problem once it's been detected. For example, restoring from backup or applying security patches. A simple way to remember this: prevent, detect, correct, in that order. Preventive always first. Out of these 3, preventive controls come first, and here's why. They are the most effective. If you stop the problem before it happens, there's no damage at all, and they are the lowest cost. Prevention is almost always cheaper than cleaning up after an incident. Some classic examples: access controls like passwords and multi-factor authentication, separation of duties, making sure no single person holds all the keys, and encryption so that even if data is stolen, it can't be read. From an auditor's perspective, you always evaluate preventive controls first. If they are weak, the detective and corrective layers end up carrying a much heavier load. The 3-layer defense in action. Let's see how all 3 layers work together with a real example. Antivirus protection. Layer 1. Prevent. The antivirus software blocks malware from entering the system in the first place. Layer 2. Detect. If something slips through, a scan catches the infection and raises an alert. Layer 3. Correct. Once detected, the system quarantines the threat, removes it, and restores clean data from backup. A key point here is this: no single layer is enough on its own. All 3 must work together. That's what we call layered defense. Controls by scope. Next, let's look at controls by scope, meaning how wide do they apply? There are 2 categories. General controls cover the entire IT environment. Things like data center physical security, an organization-wide security policy, or a disaster recovery plan. These affect every system in the organization. Application controls are built into a specific system. For example, an input check that rejects non-numeric data, a processing check that verifies calculations, or an output check that confirms record counts match. The important thing to understand is this. If general controls are weak, every application built on top of them is at risk. So, auditors evaluate general controls first, before looking at individual applications. Designing controls that work. Now, just having controls isn't enough. They need to design well. Two key principles. First, cost effectiveness. The cost of a control should never exceed the value of the asset it's protecting. Spending $1 million to secure $10,000 of cash is clearly wrong. But underinvesting is just as dangerous. Insufficient controls let risk grow unchecked. Second, balance. You need a mix of preventive, detective, and corrective controls. Even the best firewall can be bypassed. Without log monitoring, you won't even know it happened. And finally, compensating controls. Sometimes the ideal control isn't possible. A small company might not have enough staff to fully separate duties. In that case, the owner reviewing all transaction logs every day can compensate for that gap. It's not perfect, but it brings the risk down to an acceptable level. Okay, let's wrap up. Controls are not just restrictions. They are any mechanism management uses to keep risk in check and achieve business goals. There are three types by timing: preventive, detective, and corrective. Preventive is the most effective and cheapest. Always evaluate it first. No single layer is enough. All three types must work together as a layered defense. By scope, general controls cover the whole IT environment. Application controls are built into specific systems. Weak general controls undermine everything else. And when designing controls, make sure the cost fits the asset value. And if the ideal control isn't possible, use compensating controls to fill the gap. Alright, that's it for section 4. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.